Oh, mine's
My
somewhere in
cat
there.
sneezing.
Hello. I think we're live now, so welcome to our first live show of the Great Cosmere Along. I guess before we jump into anything about this book in particular, just a little bit of housekeeping. Next month in March, we are reading Elantris, and then the live show will be on Angela's channel in April. So that's what's up next. So in February, we're taking a break from reading Cosmere stuff, and then we'll be back in March with that stuff. Or maybe we're not. I don't know. Maybe you guys are crazy and reading everything. You live your best life.
You know what's on my TBR. Don't be ridiculous.
Right.
That's true. Live your semi-best life where you're still doing some obligations and some mood reading. You
There you
haven't
go.
fully gone back to your full mood reading life.
I don't know if I've ever been a mood reader. I don't know how to get there.
This is the one place where we're opposites, Angela. I'm like, I
wanna
can't stick
be
to
you.
anything.
Anyways.
And then I guess just in case anybody is here, this is a spoiler-filled chat, so we are not going to be any non-spoilers for Tress. And when we do get to the spoiler section for Cosmere stuff, it will only be what we've read up to this point, so it will only be Mistborn Eras 1 and 2 that we'll maybe talk about some connections with. But we will be very clear when we get to anything like that, but this is Tress spoilers. So if you came here thinking that there's non-spoilers, there's a different video for that. And then you can come back when you've read the book. So I guess let's just start off. Let's start with general thoughts, shall we? That's always a good place to start.
It was so cute.
I loved it.
Expect it to be as like wholesome as it was.
Even though I was yelling at you about how wholesome it was.
I know. But I was trying to like temper my expectations.
I mean,
Right. It was very different from pretty much all of Sanderson's other stuff that I've read. Like, it was just so whimsical and fun, and I loved it.
Yeah.
My general thoughts is I also really enjoyed it. It was a fairy tale. I really like fairy tales. I love the structure of fairy tales. And I thought Sanderson did a really good job at it. I don't really have many complaints. It's not going to be my favorite Cosmere book of all time, but like we also now have like 20 some books. So like, what are we doing here? So
Yeah.
Right?
But it's just one of those like I can see myself going back to if I just want something lighthearted and just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. For me, it's kind of hard. Like, if you ask me my favorite Cosmere, because a lot of them are very different tonally from each other. Because if I want to be kind of in my feels, I'll just read Era 1. If I want to be having fun, I'll probably read Era 2, Mistborn. Or maybe now Tress, because Tress is up there in just like the fun category. And then if I want just like sheer epicness, obviously Stormlight. But I think my favorite characters of his are probably in Warbreaker. I don't know.
I think it's interesting you say that because I don't disagree. I think from an objective lens, they are totally all different. But there is something about Sanderson's invisible writing style. But like he does have like a storytelling cadence. He has a cadence to how he delivers a story that I'm so used to that they all feel comfortable to me in a similar way.
Yeah.
So like I actually like when I reread stuff in Sanderson, it's normally because of this, I think the thing you're hosting, or I'm just like, I haven't read this story in a while, but it's not normally mood based, but we already said I'm not a mood reader. So like, you know.
Well, Warbreaker is the only one that I read twice. I think I read it for the first time 2 years ago, and I read it twice in the same year because I read it once, and it was the same year that Leatherbound was coming out, and then I got the Leatherbound, and I was like, well, I have to read this because I just spent like $200 on this stupid thing. So then I read it again.
I'm jealous. I want it. I am like hawking.
Warbreaker is what got me into the idea that audiobooks might not be trash, because I used to be one of those like pretentious people who's like, audiobooks is not reading. This is like 10 years ago. Okay. But I listened to it on a car ride. I'm like, oh, this isn't actually that bad. And like, I was so silly to think that way anyways, because like most of the stories I read growing up were my mom reading them to me. So like I was being a dum-dum. But but the graphic audiobook for Warbreaker is really fun.
I've heard that one's really
I'm
good.
going to try the graphic audio for Elantris because I saw that my library has it, and I was like,
ooh.
The graphic audio, I've heard really bad things about the normal audio for Elantris.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. I've not listened
Kramer
to it.
in the normal one.
So I haven't listened to the normal one. I don't know if I don't think it's Kramer. I don't think so. I haven't looked.
Because it was
I bought the Spanish one.
Their love story.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just only heard mediocre things about that audiobook. So, Sophia has
so since we're kind of talking general-ish stuff, I've gotten this question a lot, especially in my like non-spoiler review. In your opinion, is this a good place to start your Cosmere journey?
Mm-mm. No.
Why? Elaborate without being spoiled.
There are way too many Cosmere connections that you will not understand if Tress is your first book. You're going to be so confused and be like, I don't, because I feel like there's a lot of like fan service in it as well.
Yeah, but I think if you're not going into it looking for the Easter eggs,
true.
I think it'd be a good place to start.
I think it also, like, Rodger knows I've already answered this question on Elliot's live. It depends, and like Sophia had a really good answer to this, who's in the comments right now, of like, it depends on how much you know and how much you care about knowing those things, like Stephanie talked about. If you know nothing about the Cosmere, the things you don't know in this book don't matter.
That's true. I think it's because I'm the type of person that's like, I want to know.
Yeah.
All the,
and if
like,
you have read like part of Mistborn, then it's like, wait, what's happening here? Because there are like some kind of connections to Mistborn, and it's so if you know just enough to be spoiled on Cosmere things, then no. But we're talking about starting, right? And so if you're like, you know nothing about the universe, this is just a legend in the universe.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I still don't think I wouldn't want to start with it because it's so different too, tonally.
That's my kind of thought about it, is that like it's very tonally different. So if you go into other Cosmere works expecting this kind of hyper snark, I don't think that you're going to get that, and it's a kind of different story framework than he usually does. It's not usually somebody telling you a story. You're not usually at such a remove from kind of being in everything. So, like, it just depends. And then like for Easter eggs, I'm always the kind of person, like, you'll catch them one way or the other. You'll either catch them when you read the thing that they were supposed to be referring to, and you'll be like, oh, that's what that weird thing was. Or you'll read the other thing and come back like, I don't know. Or you won't catch them at all, like me, and then you'll just find it later on somebody else's channel when somebody's like, every Cosmere mention, you're like, sweet, thank you, because I missed that.
Same. And I've read them all, and I'm like, I missed that one, and that one, and that one.
But back to like the tonal note, what's really interesting is I don't disagree that this is a different narrative framework than he uses, but his first book was Elantris, which we'll talk about in a few months. And then his second book was Mistborn, and they are very different books, and a lot of his fandom were really angry that there wasn't an Elantris 2. And Mistborn, its sales were so bad it almost ruined his career because people. So like, I think there was no good time because he likes to play around. So
true, like, that's just wild. Mistborn almost ruined his career.
Right? It's like astounding now.
1700th edition right now. Like,
yeah.
Well, this is pretty cool. So somebody started here, and now they want to read Stormlight because of Hoyd. So love that for them.
Oh yeah,
love that.
And like in Stormlight, you do have Hoyd's storytelling in there. But I do think you have to know this is an author who has certain tells, but this isn't his normal narrative flow.
Yeah. Just don't go into it expecting all the levels of snark.
Yeah.
And
for me, the only thing that's potentially spoilery is if you have any frame of reference for characters in Mistborn Era 1. If you don't have that frame of reference, and even if you do have that frame of reference, it's probably us like over analyzing what he says because we just assume that he does everything very intentionally. But who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
It is definitely kind of like when people are overwhelmed with like the MCU, they're like, I don't know if I can start the Spider-Man movies because we're so far in, but I just want to watch Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And I'm like, yeah, you probably need to know the gist, but like Spider-Man Homecoming is a pretty well contained story. Like, you just need to know Iron Man's around. Like, that's it.
Right?
You think you just...
That is true.
I do like this, though. So if anybody's wondering about the traditional audiobook of Elantris, they're apparently a surfer dude.
All
I don't know that I would like that tone with
No, that's a no for me. I'm trying to imagine Hrathen and Roden and Serene as surfers, and none of it works.
Yeah, I'm no. It's very strange.
No, I'm kind of
Sophia
curious.
had a good
I want
point
to just
about the middle grade.
Oh, Alcatraz is adorable, by the way. I'm reading it with my 10-year-old.
Aww.
So it's like Alcatraz versus the evil librarian. That's like the name of the series. So like, I haven't read it, but I remember Sophia bringing this up before, that it has a similar whimsical, fun tone. So if you love the tone of Tress.
Have you read Rhythmatist? I can't remember because I haven't read this. I just own it.
I haven't read that one yet.
I just wanted this because it's so cute.
I haven't yet.
Wow.
I know.
As per usual, I own it, but I haven't read it yet.
Well, here's the thing. I know it
kind of
has a
waiting.
cliffhanger, and we don't have a second book, and I'm like, I'm not doing that to myself, but it's really cute.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't want to live in that reality of Elle where every time she reads The State of Sanderson praying for Arithmetic 2 news and then it never comes
Never.
for like years. I don't want to live that life.
I don't know. At least I feel like at some point we'll probably get it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Unlike some people.
Unlike some other.
I mean, I'm not against reading it. It's just more like I have to be in such a particular brain space for middle grade, and normally that is served by a Disney movie rewatch. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just where my brain is.
You haven't read Sal and Gabby yet, have you?
No, it's up there, and I'm going to. It's just, but then also our friend Sarah on the channel SReads' daughter watches my channel religiously and recommended me a book that I have to say I like when I read it. But
what book is that?
Oh, I can't remember right now. But anyways, that middle grade is a little bit higher because she's so cute.
Oh,
I love that.
Right.
Her kids are cute.
So
back on track, not about middle grade.
Tress. So
Back to Tress.
Since we all loved it, let's talk about our favorite moment or with any favorite quotes you have, because this one, different than most of his other stuff, I feel like was very quotable. There was a lot of like fun life quotes that you either feel like are too in your face and annoy you, or you love them. I love them.
We are completely spoiler mode, right? That's what you've set us free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I'm just checking.
So I liked. Sorry, I just totally steamrolled what you were saying.
No, that was it. Go for it.
But I don't know if this is my favorite, but the one that's kind of stuck with me is Hoyt is talking about memory. And he says, memory is often our only connection to who we used to be. Memories are fossils, the bones left by dead versions of ourselves. More potently, our minds are a hungry audience, craving only the peaks and valleys of experience. The bland erodes, leaving behind the distinctive bits to be remembered again and again. And that just really hit me. I really, really like that. And I like the way he described it. Like his prose.
There was a lot. Like this time he was very quotable for people that are always like, Sanderson doesn't know how to write a good sentence. I'm like, read Tress, because there's a lot of really good sentences.
Like there
was one earlier on where he was just describing a character, and it was, she seemed too stern to be fully human, as if instead of being born, she'd been spawned, and instead of growing up, she'd metastasized. And I was like, that's such a vivid way of making me think that somebody is like an icky, gross little like cancer blob.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite moments I think were meant to be like really great moments, like when Tress was able to save them from the rain. I thought that was like really epic and fun.
Yeah.
Like that was like a big, like you knew it was going to happen, or at least you hope, right? Like you're like, this is a story and we're not at the end, and I would like them to not die. So how are we not going to die? And the way that they don't die is pretty fun for me.
The way they don't.
I don't know. Because I think that's the point of stories, right? It's not about how predictable they are. It's about how they impress you in following the path that you know they're going to take you down, right? Yeah. Like, and I just thought that was just like, I don't visualize very well, but in my mind, it's like, oh yeah, this thing's spiraling up, and it's like Jack and the Beanstalk. I don't know,
yeah. And for someone that does visualize when they read, this one was super rich.
Yeah.
Well,
so that moment sticks with me because I just thought it was fun.
Yes.
I liked seeing an actual dragon, even though like I've heard some people say that they were disappointed that there wasn't enough, but I was like, but it was just a fun like Sphinx mixed with dragon asking like random kind of questions stuff, and like, what are you gonna sacrifice? And then Tress being like, I brought you her. It's just like so dumb, but I loved it.
Was the description, again, I don't visualize when I read, was the description actually of a dragon, or is this a creature on this world that they call a dragon? Because, you know, we have that with chickens and other books and stuff like that.
No, it's hard to say because there's also art. So the art is of an actual dragon. So what's in the text, I'm not sure.
Okay. Because I was just wondering, because, like, obviously we haven't had a dragon in the Cosmere before, so I'm just like, what is this?
It says early on that they're a dragon.
Yeah, that
Like-
they're
The dragon.
Sure. Okay, I'm saying this in the sense that Sanderson does that sometimes, where he'll
does that
use a
with the
word that we
chicken.
know, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean what we think.
it's a
Yeah.
chicken. Not at all.
It's more like a parakeet, but fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just curious because I don't visualize, and I'll just take it at face value, which is why for a long time I thought there were chickens.
Well,
I do visualize, and I thought there were chickens.
yeah, and I will admit I kind of rushed through the last part of this, but from what I remember, it matched up.
Nice. I mean, that's cool.
But
I'm pro dragons. It's just so interesting because
Pro dragons.
I think the Cosmere was one of those epic fantasy things I had read that didn't have a dragon yet.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
like there
It's
are
very
other
much
epic long
described-
series I've read that have had dragons, but this one hadn't yet.
This one is very much a dragon. Indeed, it had a sinuous neck, a reptilian body, and 2 vast wings formed as if to block out the sky. Other details were unexpected. For instance, the mane of silvery hair that adorned the dragon's head, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like a mix of like European dragon and almost like Chinese dragons with the beard of hair and stuff. But
Yeah.
it is dragon.
Dragon.
Cool. Also, Sophia, I have not received my copy yet, and I don't think Rodger has either. And these two did not back it.
I'm regretting all my
But they
life
could.
decisions.
They could go to the.
I
There
can.
are like the special editions. They could go buy them if they wanted.
And
I'm
I-
going to.
Buy, you know, I'm still gonna support him. Just couldn't do the Kickstarter.
I mean, that's fair.
I know. It was so hard not to. Even my husband was like, just do it. Just do it. I'm like, babe, that's $600. He's like, just do it. I was like, and I didn't.
That was my husband too, but not for the full year. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of glad I didn't do the full year because like I have so many nerd shirts. I really don't use mouse pads. I tend to use the like trackball style of mouse. So like moving
Yeah.
a mouse is not a thing, and stickers are not a thing. So as soon as I saw like Sophia's unboxing, I was like, really kind of glad. But I might be regretful later if they have like an adorable plushie that I'm like, damn you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would have only done the books, but this was announced the day before my defense. And so my mom's like, so this is your gift for defending, right? I'm like, sure, yeah, let's go. So I haven't mentally thought of the monetary value of anything.
yeah, Sophia, the shipping cost just for you alone made me want to cry for you.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
No. I think you said it was almost double, and that just hurts me when I start. If I think double 600, I cry for you. But I hope you're thriving in the experience. So this is an interesting point that came up when we were doing L's discussion. I'm just curious what you guys think. Do you think this is sci-fi or do you think this is fantasy?
I think, like with most of Sanderson's
Yeah.
books, as we continue, they definitely blur that line. Like, yes, it's on another planet, so kind of sci-fi, but then there's magic, but there's not really like magic. The magic is more like science-based in a way with like the spores, but it's still magic. So we're gonna go with sci-fantasy.
Yeah. It felt to me it's a blur, but if I had to like really pick one, it would be on fantasy, but it'd be like right on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
I hate genres. We all know this about me, right? Like, I don't like genres. I think they're dumb. No, they're not dumb. They're useful in helping people find a book they want to read, right? So if I look at it through that lens, okay, a reader of X genre, who is going to like this book more? And someone who reads sci-fi all the time or someone who reads fantasy all the time? If that's who I'm picking for, I'm picking for the fantasy reader.
yes.
I don't think the person who's reading space operas all day, every day is going to like Tress.
Yeah.
No.
Like, I don't. Now, if we're talking about the minutia details, what makes something fantasy and what makes something sci-fi, I find all of that really pedantic. I don't like it. I'm just like, sci-fi can be magical and low sci-fi and like all out there imaginative, and fantasy can have rules and structure. That's not the point. And maybe it's because I read a lot of books that like they don't even care about the line. They're like, screw the line, and they just go back and forth all of it all the time. I'm over
What
it.
line? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point, though. I think I would definitely pitch it more to a fantasy reader because the tropes that you're going to see, the kind of tone you're going to get, this kind of adventure quest, I feel like is more traditionally fantasy in my mind. Whereas I feel like a lot of sci-fi is more, I don't know, trying to like make you think a little bit. And I guess there's also space operas though. So there is like fun, adventurous sci-fi. I just don't read very much of it, but I would pitch it more to a fantasy reader, but it does feel like a sci-fi world and it feels less magic than some of the other Cosmere magic systems.
Totally.
Because it's kind of like this external force that we're like really having no idea. It's not really coming from within the character themselves. It's how they use this substance on the planet. So
yeah, it's like anything, anyone can do it. It's not like an innately like you have this ability. Like anyone can learn it.
Yeah. But I also think for me, it's less about the magic system for this book in particular. It is like you were talking about, like the archetype of this story is the fairy tale. Mm-hmm. If a person does not like a fairy tale, they're not going to find, like, because this is not even a groundbreaking fairy tale. This is a very by the books Sanderson version of fairy tale. Like we're not subverting the genre here.
Yeah, not at all.
So like,
but I always wonder, like, would it have been getting as high of reviews if it wasn't Sanderson? Like if people were completely blind reading this and just got the story? Because I don't know, I think it's the inner snob in me because I am that person in people's comments when they're like, oh my god, it's 2YA or whatever. I'm always like,
well,
what do you mean? So like, I feel like this is much younger in tone than most Sanderson Cosmere works. And so I just wonder.
I think as someone, like I read a good amount of middle grade. So I think I still would have enjoyed it if it hadn't, like if it was marketed toward a younger audience and I knew it felt a little younger, I probably would have. Mm-hmm. But if it had been marketed as adult, it might have felt a little young for me. Not that I wouldn't have enjoyed it.
Because this is marketed as adult, right? I feel like when I look at like the age range that it's suggested for on Target, it says 22 and up.
This is where I think adults are really hard on themselves. Like, I don't know. Like, because I don't understand, as someone who doesn't read a lot of young adult, when people, I find it the most unuseful thing in reviews where people say this feels YA. I'm like, what? I don't know what that means. As someone who doesn't read YA and I don't know the trends right now and I don't know what that means. Tell me, does that mean characters are making dumb, impulsive decisions? Does that tell me they're falling in love a lot? Does that tell me this is primarily coming of age? Tell me what this means. But people don't do that. They just want to say it feels like YA, which usually means that it has a traditional 3-act plot and there's a young main character going on a coming of age story. That's normally what they mean, but they don't say it. Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of comments like with Nettle and Bone about how like Mara, that main character, was so naive and too innocent for a 30-year-old. And I'm like, I'm 30 and I'm a dum-dum. Let me have a character who also is naive and innocent and doesn't know stuff. Like, I think adults pretend that we know what we're doing. And I think being an adult is being stuck and you don't know what you're doing. Like 99% of the time. And like, I just don't think that I don't think we are beyond the stories that resonated with our youth.
No, not at all.
And I don't think it makes it only, I don't think young adults have a monopoly on those type of stories.
Yes.
I don't know, because Tress is like, she's in her mid-20s to 30s. Like,
yeah.
She's an adult character. Yeah, I agree. Accessible. Yeah, I mean, I was reading Sanderson as a young adult reader. Like, I think a lot of his works you can pick up fairly easily in your teens, and like, I guess it depends on how dark you want things to go, because some of his stuff can be a little dark, but but I also, like, I was reading weird stuff when I was in 7th grade. Like, I read Memoirs of a Geisha, so I don't know what I was doing.
We love that.
So I don't know. I just feel like I get really weird about young adult, because I think young adult, usually when people do it, it's in a negative way and it gets shat on, and it shouldn't be. But equally, adults should be allowed to have adult stories that are in that tone. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And then also when people are like, oh, because I know we've had this conversation when it's like, oh, it feels so YA. Well, like, there's a whole ass spectrum. Like, there are some books that fall, like, what I feel like on the much younger side of YA. Like, they are definitely targeted towards a younger audience. And I'll say that, like, the Lunar Chronicles, I feel like they're so cute, but I feel like they're on the younger side. And then there's YA, like, An Ember in the Ashes. That's like, that's kind of bordering on adult. So, like, it's a big old age range. Or when people call YA a genre. Yes. That just bothers me so much.
Yeah. That's even me when I'm always in there. I'm always like, well, what did you mean? what did you mean, sir or ma'am?
I've vented about this to Rodger. I've read The Jasmine Throne. I've done a review on The Jasmine Throne. Someone watched my entire, well, presumably. They could have just watched the first 10 seconds and left a comment and left. I don't know, but if they wanted an answer to their question, they should have maybe watched the video. I did this whole video, and at the end, they're like, is this a young adult book? And like, first of all, no, nothing I said screams young adult book. Is it just because Priya's on the cover and the author is Tasha Suri?
Girls?
Like, is that it?
It's because girls.
I feel like it has to be. That's what I assume, because like when you read the book, I mean, there's some pretty significant body horror elements. All I do is
talk about the politics and like I talk about. It's just an epic high fantasy with all of the words.
Because girls.
Yeah, and Sophia.
The covers do look more like something that would be shelved in YA with like a zoom out illustration of a single female.
Yeah.
I don't know what YA covers look like. I bought it because it looked freaking pretty.
Right. Pretty.
What did Sophia say, Stephanie?
Oh, she said most YA aren't really YA anymore. Like that is a polar opposite, I think, as it used to be.
Well, as someone who has been reading a lot of YA from the ye old days lately, ye old days.
The ye old days.
I've realized also a thing that people don't like about YA is that it's just like high tier drama sometimes. And I'm like, why don't you like drama? And if you don't like drama, don't be here.
It depends on the drama for me.
Don't watch the CW.
But I'm talking about ye old YA that I've been delving into.
Yeah. The WB. I'm sorry.
No, not that old. We're talking early CW. Like, we don't know where Smallville lives. We don't know yet.
I remember the W.
We don't know if Supernatural's getting canceled or not when they transfer over.
Era.
That era.
Oh, we're so old.
Oh, God.
I'm not mad about it. I will never be mad. But...
means we've made it this far.
I don't know if there's anything wrong with what YA is doing.
Yeah.
Back on track.
Back on track. Tress.
Sorry.
Tress.
No!
Oh, we were talking about favorite moments and quotes. I don't think Jessi got her moment to do anything. Stephanie just had her one quote. I don't know if she has more, or if she wants to talk about favorite moments that actually happened.
So I have the quote. I love this one as somebody that like actually is a storyteller for a living. Like I write and I do marketing. So it's if you wish to become a storyteller, here's a hint. Sell your labor, not your mind. Give me 10 hours a day scrubbing a deck and the stories I could imagine. Give me 10 hours adding sums and you'll have me imagining at the end is a warm bed and a thought-free evening.
Yes.
Like me in grad school.
That was 100% Sanderson self-insert, and I saw it and I was like, because did you guys ever see a blog or hear a talk where he talked about before when his day job when he was working was like at a desk where he could type, like it was like a hotel receptionist desk or something like that. Like all of his jobs were in such a way that he could like write pretty much, or they were very menial. Like that's what he did.
Yeah.
Sophia can correct me because I know Sophia tends to know more of the exact things. I just keep the shape of things in my head.
Yeah.
She has the receipts.
I've got them all.
Night shift
Sophia
too.
has a very
night
good
shift.
memory,
He's like,
mine is pretty good. Like Sophia's perfect pitch. I am relative pitch. Like, so.
But that makes sense, and it's so true because like when you spend all day being creative, the last thing you want to do is use your brain at all.
Yeah. But I also liked the scene where she and Huck might like escape even though it was all set up. And then she started thinking about it. It was like, no, I can help these people. And I just loved her so much for that. Especially
like that.
It's like she's not brave. She just wants to help people. And it's like so relatable.
I loved what's her name?
Did you guys call the Huck reveal?
No.
Did you predict that Huck was Charlie? Okay.
No.
So the three of us are in a team together, and then there's Angela who's like, I knew it from the first moment he was introduced.
Yeah, I don't mean that to be like a snob. I wish I did it, but the first moment I met Huck, I was like, oh, you're Charlie.
I can see you getting that though, but for me, I'm horrible at predicting stuff, and I was just going with it, like whatever happens, happens.
I told you, I just had Stardust on the brain, and in Stardust, the love interest becomes a rodent.
Once I found out the reveal, I remember you saying that, and then it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, then you look back and you're like, oh, I can see it now, but like I didn't get it.
Well, and also like if I hadn't had that one brain connection moment, I wouldn't have been looking. But when you reread this one day and you see the conversations between Huck and Tress, it's so fun how he like flirts the line of revealing who he is and his family's circumstances and stuff. Like it's one of those classic Sanderson like hidden reveal things. I just got to experience it like it was a reread on the first time.
And I just like Huck in general. He was adorable and it made me want
we haven't had talking animals that often.
Checks out, moving on. That tracks.
Yeah. It fit with the tone of the book, so I just yeah.
Well, I think my brain, I don't know. I mean, I think I was just thinking of Stardust. Like, I know everyone else was thinking Princess Bride, but I was just thinking Stardust.
I didn't even think Princess Bride.
I didn't really.
Well, this is inspired directly from Princess Bride.
That makes sense.
I only knew that when I read the afterword.
Yeah, I didn't know it until like.
I don't know if I ever saw Princess Bride. I don't know if I've watched the whole thing. I've seen some scenes. Okay, fine. I'll go watch it this weekend. Okay, so stop judging me.
I'm not making you. That's not me. You should watch Stardust instead.
I love Stardust. I've seen it so many times. So that one, I know. I've never read the book, but I've seen the movie.
It's so swoony in that. And it's so fun. It's fun. Not swoony like, oh my god, romantic, but just, a fun swoon.
You see, I think so. There's, I don't know. I assume Holes. This is now we're way back in the rabbit hole. Is Holes even middle grade or is it child book? I don't even know what age range the book Holes.
I think it's middle grade.
I think it's.
I read it in middle school.
There's the character that goes, "I can fix that," and it's the "as you wish" trope. But in that book, and that was my first exposure was Holes the movie. So that's my I ride or die with that love.
I ride or die. I can fix that. I like that.
Because that's their whole love is I can fix that, and then racism and stuff. But anyways, Holes is very sad.
It is when you think about it as an adult. But I think they made us read it in like 8th grade.
I never had to read it. I just watched the Disney. It wasn't Disney Channel. It's just Disney Channel talked about it a lot. The Disney movie.
Where Shia LaBeouf,
right?
Yeah.
It was
Where Shia not right for the role.
And the song. Yeah.
It wasn't Corbin Bleu who was in it. No, he didn't come on the scene till High School Musical.
No. But it had
too busy in his
Sigourney
Canadian
Weaver.
shows. There was a show that was like Lost, but in Canada for kids that I watched that was really good with Corbin.
All right. It had Sigourney Weaver though, top tier, always.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments was when Hoyd would always like bow down to Tress and how reasonable she was. Like basically every time Hoyd did that, but it's in particular when she's like, and then Tress did a thing that no one ever does, she thought.
Yeah. Yeah. She considered.
She took a moment to consider if she was right.
Right. We didn't just run headlong. Like I did love that.
Like I just enjoyed each of those moments.
Yeah.
And yeah. Rodger, you haven't had any of your quotes or moments yet though.
I did. I read one.
I just know you have 20.
You got a lot.
I have more than 20. I also was marking all of the different spores. That was one thing that I was a little bit annoyed about because I wanted to see all the spores because I'm just a completionist at heart in everything that I do. I am that person that 99.9% completion in the video game is not sufficient. We have to get every last thing. Yes. And so I was just like, I only got half. So that was
these blazing suns are so hard to get, Rodger.
But I mean, I had a lot of the quotes that I liked were more in the beginning when he was just being like snarky and mean about these like airhead girls. About, let's see, where is it?
Oh,
he was describing all these girls. I have it here somewhere. Why did I highlight so much? Here we
Everything.
Go.
I only highlighted
the other girls were obviously
Cosmere
right.
things.
I did that too, but
the
other
girls
were obviously right as they all knew how to be unique. They were so good at it, in fact, that they did it together. Just like all of that kind of like uber snarky is just so my vibe.
I loved it.
Because I talked about my favorite moment was the dragon. I think I don't know. I also liked the moment that you're talking about where we had Tress saving the day with her gigantic beanstalk, and I liked the showdown with the the sorceress and like her spaceship being like
That
a
was so
castle
weird.
was like hilarious.
That was so weird because that did pull me out a little bit. I was like, wait, do we have computers? What is going on right now?
Yeah, no, that was a weird time. I also, one of my favorite moments was when she came back from the dragon with glasses for, I forget her name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she could then at least practice and have a prayer at being good. And then she also got to have her save the day moment.
Right.
Yes.
And that's great.
It's like she's not bad. She's just blind.
Well, she just also needs
I
practice,
relate.
but it helps when you can see.
Where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, and like back to the computer thing. The picture of Hoyd near the end, it looked like something out of Percy. Because he has his socks with holes, but it didn't fit in with anything else in the world, which was just fabulous.
Oh yeah. That was. And then wasn't the board, the magical board, it's like an iPad.
Yeah.
Yep.
I loved it.
That's an iPad. We're going to do a video call. It makes me very interested for like things going forward too.
Yes.
In the Cosmere. You're like, wait.
Oh, another reason why I get really fussy about fantasy and sci-fi is I don't like that the assumption is once you have tech, magic goes away. I dislike it with every fiber of my being.
Well, I think that's just because there's that really old quote, right? That any sufficiently advanced technology seems like magic. So I feel like people always go back to that touchstone of when they
Well,
feel...
stop being derivative and boring and let there be magic and iPads. That's all I have. Like,
I want my magic dragons and my iPads.
I think that's a very famous quote from something somewhere.
Well, yeah. It was probably some old white guy who was probably racist and misogynistic, so I don't need it. Like,
you're probably not wrong.
I could be very wrong. Someone can correct me, but I'm just saying the statistical probability is high.
It is a high probability.
Now I'm curious.
We need to know.
I do think that genres are fine. They're not very helpful to me.
Yeah.
So.
No, I don't disagree.
It looks like a dusty old white man.
I'm telling you, you're listening to white people. You know what? White people also thought my brain was worse than yours, Rodger. Like
Arthur C. Clarke.
Really? I haven't read any
British
of his
science fiction author.
He's one of the classics.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
If it's the right person. Is he the one who wrote Return of the Sorcerer?
I don't know. He's one of those classic, like, wrote when Asimov and them were writing, and like I just haven't read him yet.
Yeah.
Alright, he helped develop the thing that makes Pringles.
Oh, well, good on him. Yay.
Not up for everything else, but just like an interesting, side fact.
I do love Pringles.
Okay, so obviously his most famous book is probably 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's the one that I immediately am like, okay.
Yeah.
That has to be the most famous, but he's known for many. He is like there's the Arthur C. Clarke Award. Like he's a big deal. It's bad. Well, it's bad. You never have to read the classics, but I actually have spent a lot of time reading sci-fi classics, and he's one of the ones I haven't gotten to yet. I'm dreading it.
I mean, I guess if you have metal bowls and you can push pull.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, I will say we're not going to talk specifically about Stormlight, but Stormlight is the closest I've gotten to a good blend of the two, and I appreciate Sanderson for it, because future fantasy just does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like this much of fantasy is future fantasy. Like, it's like barely a subgenre.
But I feel like that's kind of, what we're leading towards with Mistborn eras.
Maybe. It's also the only reason I watched Eternals and liked it.
Isn't that what is Broken Earth future fantasy, or is it just fantasy?
It's sci-fantasy.
Yeah.
It's
like apocalyptic fantasy.
Apocalyptic
it's
Dying Earth fantasy, I think, is the technical subgenre, which I have learned I really like. So it's technically the same subgenre as Mistborn, where it's like, shit's going down.
It's not fun like 2. It's dark like 1.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, because the 5th season, if you don't know, is the apocalypse. You have 4 seasons, like our normal ones, and the 5th one is an apocalypse.
And they happen all the time.
Yeah, and it's about the society has rules for every time there's a 5th season. It's going great.
Fantastic. We love it.
Yeah,
Smart
I think
book.
I'm just
A lot of
worried about
dusty
it
old
being
white
like
men don't age that
dry
well.
and boring. Problem. The thing that doesn't work for me with older sci-fi is that character work was not a feature. Like they don't care.
No, it's all about the idea. It was only
It was
about
all
the idea.
and like you can do both. Or you can have an idea given to you in an interesting way, even if you don't have characters. Like these are not things that they just didn't do it in a way that I find engaging. Because I would say like Ted Chiang has some good characters, but he's not like known for his character work, and he's an ideas guy. But I can reread his short stories all day, every day.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Well, I just think that's where Brandon Sanderson does so good, because he does bring in the ideas to fantasy, which I don't think we see as much in the fantasy genre. We see really gritty, really dark, really messed up, horrific, you want to vomit, or you see like fun adventures. But he kind of does the blend the best that I've read currently.
Yeah, he does a good job.
I was about to say, you have a whole world out there of recommendations you ignore from me, but
That's not true. Like what? What have I ignored?
we haven't ignored it yet.
I'm reading Chorus of Dragons. I'm going to be reading Mask of Mirrors. But those are not like blending. Are they?
Yeah, maybe blending.
I would say I haven't read Chorus of Dragons, but I would say yeah to Mask of Mirrors.
They're both blendy.
Mask of Mirrors
They
for
blendy.
Well,
Also,
then I'm more excited.
Elle's favorite over here, very blendy.
sure. Mm-hmm.
I've read the first two. I need to read
I
the
haven't
third
read
one
those
of
yet.
The Winnowing Flame.
I don't know. I mean, I will agree. Sanderson's most popular form, like for sure. Oh well, okay. Can we say officially now Sanderson's more popular than Wheel of Time? I assume he is, but I don't know.
I hope so.
I mean, with how much he just made on a Kickstarter, I don't think that people would pay as much for a Wheel of Time year.
I hope so. I don't know.
I'd hope not.
Although, yeah. But what is any other moments and stuff for Tress? Since we're supposed to be talking about Tress.
I still okay, and this is gonna sound like I'm a 14-year-old boy. So the castle, the spaceship castle, all I could think of was that scene from Austin Powers. The way he described how
You're
her
killing
castle
Stephanie.
looked.
You're killing her.
I think of is that scene from Austin. You know that scene from Austin Powers. We're like, it's a Johnson. What is? And it just goes on for way too long. That's where my brain went. So
It's great.
I mean, there's that, and then there's also all the poop jokes. There's like
Yes.
the one sequence of just poop jokes.
the whole story of
That
poop.
job, the Tasher job. What a horrible job. And all I've never seen someone try to get so many handkerchiefs in their nostril at one time. Just
That was amazingly bad.
fabulous.
Yeah, no. There were some great moments.
There were.
Does anybody else have any other moments that they want to talk about before we swap over and we can talk Mistborn spoilers and crossovers with Tress as well? Anything else Tress only?
I mean, did you want to talk about Tress magic on its own or in the Cosmere section? Or did you not want to talk about
Either
Tress
way,
magic?
I mean, I feel like it crosses over with Mistborn Era 2 the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my only caveat. I don't really
So
have an
if
agenda.
If you've not read Mistborn Eras 1 or 2, we are now going to be spoilerific, including the Lost Metal, because that is Mistborn Era 2. So thank you so much for joining. If you have to leave us, come back when you've read all the other Mistborn stuff, and we will see you in March. The Discord stuff is linked down below if you want to join in the Discord for chatting Elantris in March, and then the live show will be in April, so stay tuned for dates and information. But now I'll put it on the screen so that nobody can yell at me for not being very clear. Spoilers.
Somebody will, just so you know.
If you can people can do what they want. We can also ignore them. It's fine.
Well, just like people being annoyed that saying that the title of Tress of the Emerald Sea was spoilers, you can kiss my tuchus. How am I supposed to talk about a book without its title? Like, absolutely not. Anyways.
This book that I read. A book that shall not be named.
Spoilers. I like every time we get the medals from Mistborn used in other magic systems.
Yes.
That just the satisfaction I feel. Like when she was using the plates to like make the crystal model, like, oh, the push and the pull.
Yeah.
I was just, it makes no sense to geek out over it really, but it's just.
But it
And,
was.
and then was the metal that they were using? Because they had like a metal rim around like the railing, right, to kill spores.
It was
Silver.
Silver.
Silver is
What
the
does
metal
silver do
that
in
can make
Mistborn?
things.
Sophia, we need you. What does silver do exactly in Mistborn?
Oh, here I can look. I have my lost metal right here. I'm sure it's in the back.
Yeah, I don't remember that one 100% either. But I was.
I mean, silver was almost going to be aluminum in terms of what aluminum does, but it's not because Sanderson wanted it to be something you can manufacture like aluminum. So aluminum would be rare until industrial era. That's what I remember reading somewhere. I don't remember what silver does. Where's gold?
Yeah.
Why is it not here? Am I making it up? I thought silver did something.
I don't remember silver at all.
That's why I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I thought there was silver because we had gold, but apparently I am making shit up.
I remember gold.
I don't know.
Silver is
According to the
allomantically, and are you looking at the 17th shard?
Yeah.
Same.
We're like, okay, they're still not fully understood, so he hasn't really gone into anything. It just seems to kill spores. I wonder what it would do to allomancy then. Anyways, totally.
Well, we already have a metal in allomancy, like for the leechers or whatever, that like makes the magic not work, right? Like, so I mean, I guess we could have another one, but we already have a like magic cancel function. We have 2 now.
But if silver like cancels investiture, maybe you would be able to, I don't know, have a shield of silver or something where like things that are being pushed or pulled, you cut the allomantic lines or what? Who knows? Whatever.
All I know is that I for sure was thinking silver was mentioned because of the blog post he mentioned about how he chose to use aluminum over silver and that silver was one day. Like that's for sure probably where my brain took it from then. Obviously I made things up. I don't know. But that's why I accepted it because I thought I already knew, which I didn't.
I love all the crossovers though. And I was reading Lost Metal at the same time as Tress. Like I was going back and forth. So that made for a really weird experience.
Yeah, how was the ether, whatever we're calling it?
That, like, I think the fact that I read them in tandem like that made that be like, what? Like, hey, this is in 2 things I'm reading at the same time.
So what spore did he have? What spore was the one in the Lost Metal?
It was rosite. So it was the pink one.
Mm-hmm.
You need the pink rocks. That's all I made. Pink rocks.
Yeah. No, that was fun getting those updates from Jessi and our little Voxer chat.
Yeah. Because I'm like, wait, which book am I reading at this point?
Yeah, I was very impressed that you could do that.
Yeah,
that was a choice.
It was a choice. Okay.
It was a decision you made.
It happened.
So my question is, I don't know if I'm just overreading or what's going on, but I just got thrown off when it mentioned Sazed by name. And so I was like, would Hoyd have met Sazed when Sazed was Sazed? Or would Hoyd have met Sazed when Sazed was Harmony? And I know that Hoyd has been kind of around the crew, so they maybe met initially. But
yeah.
Like, I don't know, why was it Sazed specifically? Was that just because Hoyd? Or was that because Sazed has been doing weird stuff? And because this seems like we're far future, like Mistborn era 4 timeline of space travel. So I was just like, why is it Sazed specifically and not Harmony that sent the Kandra to do things?
Oh, true.
I think you brought this up or Elle brought this up in her video, and I still land on the if it matters, I'll be told one day.
Right. Because I'm pretty sure he did
a specific name, and I was like, I know that name. I've read that book twice.
Because I'm pretty sure he did. He was around, like he was familiar with Hoyd prior, or with Sazed prior to.
I think in Era 1, Hoyd was only ever a beggar, or maybe he was the footman in Era 2, but in Era 1 he was primarily a beggar.
Yeah, because I just remember like Sanderson being like, I couldn't really insert a lot in those eras. He's like, I didn't know.
Would they have met enough for Hoyd to be specifically calling him Sazed without a reason? I don't know. That's just my like over analytical brain.
I feel like that's just something Hoyd would do. Instead of calling him like his shard name, he'd be like, that dude.
Yeah, just be more familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess they do, because at this point in time, aren't we so far ahead, like you said? So I guess if he met him even in Mistborn Era 2, it would be way back.
I guess maybe I'm unclear about. So
I'm
I
okay
feel
with
like
that.
at this point in our Cosmere understanding, we don't really know what Harmony / Sazed's going through. And obviously at the end of Lost Metal, shit's not like amazing. And like, we're not going to talk Stormlight, but we get some glimpses into Sazed and Stormlight a little bit. And like, I guess since Era 1, we haven't really gotten to spend time with our boy, except for once in a while, Wayne being in the undead area with him and Wax and stuff like that. And I guess I don't know if Sazed has an attachment to his name that he would express in a way that would make people feel comfortable using that over Harmony. If he, like, I don't really know what's going on with him, or if Harmony is his new name and he's so different from the man he once was. Like, I don't have a good read on that.
Maybe we'll find out.
I love he is very different, right? Because at least when Kelsier is interacting with him, he's like very concerned.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's not doing great.
No.
His I think it was implied that the Ruin half has more control than the Preservation, and there's like this dark shadow.
Which makes me sad, because Sazed is forever my favorite character in the Cosmere.
I love him.
He's great.
He's my favorite Cosmere character.
I don't want to figure out my favorite Cosmere character, so I'm not going to respond. But
like, that's just today, though. It could change. There's like a handful.
Per series, I can pick a character, but then.
But then they start crossing over, and it makes things confusing.
Well, because again, we were talking about authors with tells. A lot of the characters have a similar DNA. They're not all the same or anything like that, but like you can
tell.
You can tell which characters are archetypes of which ones and what was tweaked to make them different enough. Like, you can see it. Like, Elend is like if Dalinar and Adolin had a kid. Like, I don't know. Like, it gets weird.
It's just weird.
It gets weird. Because I reread Stormlight before rereading Mistborn, and I was like, oh, this is where the early ideas came in Elend, and then I got split into 2 characters over here. And yeah.
Should have left it as one. I like Elend.
Elend's pretty okay. Yeah. Pretty good. I mean, for a rich boy, he's all right. I'm pretty much with Kelsier on it. Like, Yeah. Kaladin and then Vin.
Spoilery?
I mean, like, I know.
What does this mean? Kaladin? Oh, is that her order of favorite characters? Kaladin first, and Vin.
Nice.
Man, I do love me some Kaladin, but Dalinar.
I think I like the jokes we have around Kaladin more than Kaladin. We won't discuss them, but like I like a lot of the memes around it.
I like Napoleon Dynamite. Like, it's more fun to quote it than.
We can pull up all the memes starting in November when we start reading it.
But we
oh my god! You should just—that's the chat. Rodger and you guys all get the memes together, and we'll grade them. That's the discussion.
I love that because there's some good ones.
There's some good ones.
I think we should put a pin in that and come back.
I mean, but I do think this comes back to the beginning where, like, yes, this book has like some little Cosmere things. Like, we have the woman from Secret of Mistborn, that one Elantrian. She's the sorceress. I only know this because Sophia told me in the other chat.
I know. Because I did
only know this because
I didn't catch it either. I had to like.
I just assumed she was someone that I knew.
Yeah, I assumed she was someone, and I'm like, she's got to be someone we haven't met yet. And then I was like digging because I'm like that.
That just blew Stephanie's mind. She's like,
was she? Well, because I'm horrible at making the connections. Was she named in another book? Because in this book, she's Rena, right?
It's in.
I don't know if we heard her name.
I don't know.
We just saw her and that other guy traveling through Shadesmar in the Scadrial zone when Kelsier was trying to travel to meet the IRE, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Those people.
Okay.
And I think she was the really manipulative one. Like, there was one Elantrian that was more vibrant than the others.
I haven't read it yet, but I remember Secret, the whatever we read, that she was mentioned.
Okay.
I don't remember if her name was mentioned, though.
I don't remember her name.
Sophia thinks she is, so I mean, it's very short. I can flip through it and find out pretty
later. My copy's on the bottom of the stack. I'm not getting it out. And the Kindle flipping is not fun. I don't like flipping through Kindle. It takes forever. But
do we know who this Kandra is? Is it a Kandra that we've met before, or is it a new Kandra?
The closest I could think
I couldn't.
Was the Kandra. I don't think it is this person, but the relationship I had was in Mistborn Era 2. You know, there was that Kandra who kept wanting to be like, I want to buy your eye or whatever. And like, so because
Yeah.
of that personality trait, which I don't know if that's just like a Khandra thing, or if it was very particular to that Khandra, I was like, are you that Khandra we met in Mistborn Era 2? But I don't think he traveled with Malene, but maybe later on he went in a different batch.
Yeah. I kept thinking that too, because like I said, I was reading them in tandem.
Okay,
and
cool.
I'm like,
So I wasn't making this up. I caught this one, but I didn't know the names.
yeah, because I was like, like I said, I read them at the same time. I'm like, they all keep wanting to buy body part. Like they both
Right.
They
Like
the same?
it was such a character trait.
It sounded familiar, but I didn't fully make the connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just like, do I know who you
Yeah.
are?
The
Yeah.
Dacta.
That makes it really funny.
That
I
makes
mean,
it
I'm
make
glad that
more
like my
sense.
brain kind of knew that, but I was like, but he looks so different now, which makes sense.
Because
Yeah.
Look at Angela making the Cosmere connection.
It never happens. If I'm being
'Cause you're like,
really honest, I read
Never.
the first parts of Stormlight Archives 2 or 3 times before people told me some very obvious crossover connections. So, like,
I only knew some of those because you told me. So I'm one of the find out after the fact, or if someone tells me.
yeah.
yeah, and I don't like
Unless
going
you
down
directly name a character that I love. Like Sazed, I noticed immediately because I love Sazed, and I was like, I know that name.
Right.
If there's
Or if
any
they're
work
like-
involved,
When wit was capitalized, it's like, okay.
Right. Or when they're like, the Ascendant Warrior. You're like, okay. Thank you for making it obvious.
I think this also just falls into the category of Sanderson has certain character types he likes to write,
He does.
which is fair. I don't actually think that's a bad thing, except for if you choose to have crossovers, looking at you, SJM, and I don't think you can pull it off sometimes.
That's salty.
oh, don't get me started on House of Sky and
But yeah, no. So I mean, I think they are all distinct enough, but you can tell there are certain types of headspaces and minds he enjoys being in, which is fair. I think that's fine.
I do
And I like
appreciate
it.
that he did some deaf representation because I feel like that's very
Yeah.
underdone in adult
Yeah.
epic fantasy.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I really liked the representation.
How many
I
times
liked
have
it.
you read everything in the Cosmere, Sophia?
More than me, probably, for
More,
sure.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I've read most, except for Era 2, 4 to 5 times, but I know people who've read way more than that for, like, Way of Kings. I know people who've read Way of Kings, like, 20 times. I'm like,
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
more
Could
love
not
than
be
I
me.
can give that book. That's
I
just-
haven't, but I've known people.
Yeah, they're books I want to read, no matter how much I love it.
Okay, so
Okay,
Sophia
so
and
you're
I are,
similar.
like, on a similar wavelength.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I think my rereads have like a lot of space between them, which is probably why like sometimes some of my rereads were like reading it for the first time because like, you know, there were like 7 years or 10 years. between
Yeah.
them.
I've read everything once, and I've read Mistborn Era 1 twice, Warbreaker twice, and that's it. But I've
Nice.
read everything once.
I've read,
I've read everything once, except for Era 1. I've read twice.
Era 1 is the one where I can't tell if I read it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Like that's the one where because in college is a dead space, right? And I can't remember if I read it then. College is a weird time.
Kitty!
Oh, yeah.
Is he done cleaning himself now? Because I saw him in the background just like,
She's having a sneezing attack.
oh no. Poor
Aww.
baby.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
a lot of rereads to do in a 6-year period. I'm
That is a
impressed.
lot.
I mean, Sophia is like a true MVP fan. So, I mean, everyone's a fan. I don't care how many.
Oh,
everyone's-
no, but like,
But like,
I'm not going to disagree with you.
I just don't want people who are like, well, I only have time to read them. Like, no, you're also a fan. Like,
We can all be fans.
we're all
All
fans.
right, guys, I have to bounce out, though.
Bye.
That's fine. I think we're pretty much ready to
I think
wrap
we're
it up
pretty
anyway.
much. I'm going to take these heathens to go get dinner. Feed them before they eat Lord of the Flies style up in this house. Like,
You have like a pig in the background. What do you-
they might start a riot.
No evidence of this later.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Jessi. But I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to mention?
I still think that although the narrative style is cool, it did prevent it from being a 5-star experience for me. I
Well,
keep
you are
thinking-
more character focused than me because I'm so plot focused that like I don't care.
Like, but
Where
then you
you're
could
like,
just watch
since
like
you
a
weren't
movie. Like, I don't understand. I can't relate.
I just went into
since you weren't like in her feels, I'm sure a lot of people feel that way though. That if they had been able to like get Tress's thoughts and feel closer to her, they would have liked it more.
Or maybe it was just a little long. Like, it's not that long of a book to begin with. I still don't know how many pages it is because I don't have like a copy. So
Like,
it's not long by
or-
Sanderson style, but like, I do think if it was closer to Nettle and Bone length, it would have been perfect. Like, I don't know. Because I'm
just torn because there's some things I wanted more of, but then I don't know if it would have ruined what I liked about it to have more of it.
I do think what I would have cut that wouldn't, I think, have diminished the book is, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there were many morals that were repeated many times by just Hoyd narrating it, not by being repeated by showing it to us or other things. Like, literally, like, this is just a different version of these words you said 4 pages ago right here. And I just think in the editing process, someone wasn't as strict enough of being, you've already had this message. Like, if you want to show that message again, you need to repeat it more and showing it through the character's action, or like, because repeating morals is a part of fairy tales, but it was literally like the same sentences for me. And I kept being like, this is repetitive and I'm not moving. I think that was the thing, is I noticed the repetitiveness that is part of Sanderson, but like,
yeah, I think I'm more character driven too, but I think with this one, just the way it started out, I knew it was just going to be like a story being told to me. So I don't know if I would change anything, but I also went into it knowing that I wasn't going to give it a star rating. I think it just worked for what it was. I really enjoyed it.
Do you not star rate books? Or
not
just
anymore.
This one in
She's
particular?
changed it, so now she'll just tell me on Twitter she's finished a book and I have no idea what she thinks.
I because I just be bothered. And then I've been reading a lot more translated stuff, and it's different and it's harder to put a rating on it.
Oh, I disagree. But I mean, that's fair. I don't actually care if people rate it. I'm just nosy. I rate only for myself, and if other people gain value from my ratings, that's fine.
Well, the goal of that was I'll put more like details for a review, but then I've been so busy, I just haven't.
Yeah, so I never know what you think, and then you don't post your videos, and so I just sit here and be like, oh, Stephanie's read this book.
I know, but I have brain space. But I think if I had to give this a rating, it would probably be a 4.
You've got to do at least like the Evie thing where you like Marie Kondo it. And
yeah,
like,
you have to at least Marie Kondo it.
I feel like I'm stealing your rating system.
But I do think for me, if I keep Hoyd as the narrator, which I do like and I think adds so much value to the story, I needed it to be a 300-page book and not a 400-page book. I think that's where, because all the stories that I like that use this narrative framework are that short, like Redemption in Indigo right here. This is the pale one here, super short book, does the same thing. And I can be okay with not being as close to Pama in that book because I get it. It's a folktale, it's short. I can read it literally in an afternoon without much hassle. Whereas this one, like, it's also my headspace, but
yeah,
it took me like a week.
Things like that didn't bother me as much because it was just a fairy tale type.
But fairy tales aren't 400 pages.
Well, I know, but to me, and maybe it's just because I read it all at the last minute.
Yeah, you did read it all at the last minute.
Feel like it's length. You know, like some books.
I would agree, but I read it in a day. I read it the day it came out. So like...
Wheel of Time feels like it's length most of the time. But with Sanderson, for me, normally he doesn't feel like the length because they're just fast to read.
Well, I will say, and it could be my mental health or whatever, but it felt long to me. It took me a week to read.
Why?
I still don't know how many pages it is, so it could be a 300-page book. I have no clue.
I think it's 464.
See, that's too long for a fairy tale.
Because I have an ebook and it doesn't have the pages on it, so I looked up the page number because it only has the location and the percentage.
Yeah, but it might be that page number for the trad pub, whatever size book they're doing. Who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, I will also say that's my complaint for The Princess Bride, the book, because that book is also 400 plus pages. And like, I liked the gimmick for like 200 pages. And then I was like, fine, if I'm going to be with these people for so freaking long, let me be with them.
Yeah. And I think I just enjoyed it so much that I just went with it. It didn't bother me.
Now I say this, but I gave it a higher rating than Stephanie. Like, I'm just saying that like, that's the thing that I think would have made it like, for me, the perfect book.
Gotcha.
For me, it was just that weekend fever dream of reading Infernal Devices in 2 days and then reading Tress like the day after. Like, it was just, I read like 4 books in like 3 days. It was just lovely. And it was a very different vibe from Infernal Devices.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, my other live show was on demons. So I went from like super, super dense to just like a fairy tale. So I was just like, I'm just going to go with it. Stuff isn't going to bother me because I don't have to think too hard.
But I also, like,
Yeah.
I gave it 5 stars because I loved it. It was just so whimsical and I loved it.
You
I
also
wasn't
are
sitting
just
there
plot
like-
driven, which I love that for you and I hate that for me. But you're not
Me
going
sitting
to
there
like
reading
the
White
Broken
Noise,
Earth
like,
trilogy.
what am I doing? What is this? Is the point just to be, but like, pretentious? Yes. Okay.
What happened? Sorry.
Oh, that's White Noise? I was like, because I was trying to figure out a plot. And there is not a plot. The point is
No,
just
that literary
being
fiction
pretentious.
doesn't have plot. The plot would be a feature. But
Some literary fiction does have plot. Though.
yeah, but it's not its goal,
Not
right?
this
Like
one.
it's not. It has an arc usually. It usually has a purpose.
Yeah, but it's not the goal. I get it.
I mean, I don't mind that about literary fiction, but like, there's no universe in which I would have given Rodger literary fiction to read. That wouldn't have been a thing I'd do.
I would not.
Sabotage.
I care about Rodger. I would want him to stay my friend. Like,
I've never read a book where it literally gave me a headache every time I was reading it. It was an interesting experience.
I think he gave it to you because Elle wouldn't read it with him.
Well, don't.
She was supposed to buddy read it with me, and then she's like, "Oh, I still can't listen to your messages. I haven't read it." I was like, "Well, at least give Sean your phone to Voxer me so that I'm not doing this by myself."
Also, this is the blanket I've been crocheting to everyone in the chat.
Nice.
You made it to the end. You get to see what I've been doing.
But I think with that, we'll wrap up this live show. Thank you so much for showing off your knitting / crocheting.
This is crocheting.
skills.
Oh yeah, yours
Well, hers
is knitting.
looked like knitting.
No, hers is knitting.
Okay, I'm not crazy. I was like, because I feel like crochet is the this, and the
crochet is the hook,
knitting
knitting
is
is
this.
the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
little peace sign on the way out.
But if you made it all the way here, thank you guys so much for coming and enjoying this live show with us. It was my first time hosting like an actual book-related live show, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you back in April on Angela's channel for Elantris.
And if you don't like Elantris, I'm not showing your comments. You can talk all you want. I'm kidding. I'll show you your comments. This is going to be an Elantris stan chat. It's enough hate.
The woman is going to be controlling what you see.
I am kidding, but I am unapologetically a mega fan of that book, and I don't even care.
Anyways, bye.